Okay, there you go. Okay, Jeanette.
Hi.
Hi. So you're the person who's leading the meeting because Glenn is not here today.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I'm going to try sharing my screen while it's recording to see if, so that way everyone can see what the agenda is.
Okay.
Okay, so
How do I do this? I call to open,
so
right?
sorry? Yeah, so we just open up
I call
the
a motion to,
and then accept the agenda.
okay. All right, agenda is up on screen. So we
Need a
any
motion.
motion to accept? Yeah.
I'll move it.
Who was that?
That was Anne.
Then.
And then we
Anybody who wants a second? I'll second, guys.
And then to just go quicker, we just ask if there's any objections, Jeanette?
Yes. Are there any objections to the meeting minutes or agenda, I mean?
Okay.
No, I guess there's none.
Yeah.
The minutes from the last meeting, do we need a motion to accept that?
I'm just gonna double check because I don't think that we've had a meeting. No, we didn't have any actual minutes. Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah, I saw a minute.
Yeah, so then yes, we need a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, so any motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting? I think it's posted on the, Angela, you sent it by email as well.
Yeah, I sent it by email.
Yeah. No one? I'll call it. I'll move it.
Okay, now we need a second.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay. What's next? So I think we have.
So you need to see if there's any objections.
And are there any objections? I don't think there are, since I think it's just us.
Yeah, are there any other
No
committee
objection?
members?
Mitchell, but he's pretty much on.
I think
he's driving.
Okay, and he's
I'm
not.
driving, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I think we're good with that. We're good with everything.
Yep. So declaration of conflicts of interest.
Okay. Yeah, let me just open up my the documents that you've sent. So we're done with the minutes, July 1st. We're done with the agenda acceptance. Okay, we're now declaration of conflicts. Any declaration of conflicts? Anybody who wants to declare conflicts? No. Okay, we'll move. And what is next? Acceptance of new committee members. Has anyone else reviewed the application for the new committee? Has Glenn advised? If
I haven't
I'm
heard
just not sure.
objections from anyone. So
Okay.
these have all been vetted through governance, and what the process is that we're doing is vetted through governance. Then it goes to the committee. If the committee would like to interview the person for a spot at this point, then we would. If no one has any objections, then we would invite them for an interview.
Okay. I mean, I have no objections. I'm not sure if Glenn has any objections. I have no objections. I reviewed it. Then we can probably just move to the next step, which is to invite him.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any thoughts on that?
The only other
Anyone?
thing is that because this has been brought up in a couple of other committees, There's a couple of people that have applied for more than one committee. And
Mm-hmm.
save the person coming in more than once or more than twice, depending. It's been suggested that maybe some of the committees pair up when they interview them.
Okay.
Okay.
And so far for this committee, we only have that one person, right?
Correct. But in terms of, so if this
Yes.
person applied for multiple committees, we might have,
Mm-hmm.
say, someone
Mm-hmm.
from this committee and then someone from one of the other committees interview them at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what criteria are being used to select? Or like what kind of questions are going on in the interviews?
I honestly don't know because I don't think anyone has actually had any interviews yet.
Interview.
We're still, this is still the process of, you know, it's been vetted. Do the committees want to interview the person? And I think the communications, like community development, will come up with some questions.
Mm-hmm.
Or each committee can come up with their own questions, right? But if the committees would prefer that community development comes up with the questions, we're quite happy to do that.
This step
Okay.
a bit more, doing a bit more rigor around the people we bring on committees. We had some historical past issues with some members that were on committees that, quite frankly, we should probably vetted them out with some simple questions. So it's a liability thing that we should at least sit down and ask some basic questions about their contribution, their role, and their history in terms of the community.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we're good with that.
Sorry.
I think okay. Thanks, Ivano. So Angela, you'll schedule the meeting with the applicant, right? Yeah. Okay. So number 6, we're on economic development items. We proposed budget for 2021. Do we have a paper
So
for this?
this is where I'm going to share my screen again, because for this, there's some suggestions for Discover the Space. So if you just bear with me while I share my screen.
No, for the budget. Are we discussing budget for econ?
Yes.
Proposed budget for econ, or okay?
Yeah,
Do you have any documents for that?
I just have a couple of notes. So the one document is Discover the Space.
Okay.
So these are some options that I came up with, and put numbers to. So option 1 is we just run this program same as this year. The budget for next year wouldn't be 12,000, it would be 17, because we have spillover from when this one started to when it ends. Option 2 gives a different scenario.
So currently, what's the is the I'm not sure what the budget is for the econ, but can it carry any of these options?
Well, this is the
can we afford it with our current budget?
Well, these are the budget numbers for 2021, right? So this will start in 2021.
Think about the objectives, Jeanette, in terms of, you know, the current program. I seem to think it's successful. Would we agree?
Yes.
And how would we do that success? We have somebody who's intending to launch a business, going to stay, signed a long-term lease?
They've signed at least a year lease. Their business is doing quite well.
Is doing well enough that they're going to stay? Is that our assumption?
That's what their hope is. Like, it is gaining momentum as we speak.
Yeah, so the idea here is, you want to repeat this success like for like, or do you want to do something different and double down, I guess, is what I see in the option is a much more activity. Do we want to expand it or keep it the same?
I think it's better. I think it will be good to expand it to at least 2. I do see the options that were presented here. I'm thinking with the new.
Jeanette, what's the message we're going to give to people that are that are commenting on the fact that we're paying somebody's rent with their money?
What's our message? I think this is one of the programs that were successfully launched in other BAAs, and if we want to mimic that success, and considering we've already done it last year and it's proving to be quite successful, I don't see any reason why it would be a bad idea to do it.
Yeah, what's the success?
I mean, we have the budget for it.
Yeah, the idea is to fill empty spaces, bring new businesses that are launching in town. How do we use other people's experience here? I think there was a slide deck that talked about the net plus value, because our members are going to complain. Some are going to complain that we're using their money to help fund somebody else's rent. But the idea here was about promoting, filling empty spaces with innovative people and encouraging more investment downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
I would think that I mean, there's a spillover effect. The more traffic you have, because the more spaces, the more visibility other people's businesses have, as well as, I mean, the real goal here is to have long-term tenants come in, right? It's sort of, yes, you pay their rent for a short period of time, the goal being to have them become permanent contributing members of the community. So that would be the way I would explain to other members why their money is being well spent.
The other spin-off from that, which we actually encountered, is we videoed each of the spaces, and before the program even finished, one of the spaces had already been leased out because it was on the website. So,
Awesome.
We actually lost spaces that were available because people could see them on the website.
I get that. So whoever participates from the other side, not the people winning the grant, they're putting some skin in the game too, right?
Yeah, so any member who owns property, like we approached a number of them, and some said yes, some said no. The ones that said yes, we got someone to go do a walkthrough, create a little video. It went on the Discover the Space website, and from that.
Yeah, but what's their participation? What's their skin in the game? A reduced rent?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Well, we do that through the negotiation process, but
right.
Yeah, they see the value of letting people see what's available downtown.
Yeah. So to the people that are objecting to this particular initiative, and now that we're going to double down, and I agree with you. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm just practicing my stump speech to deal with people that are non-taxers, right? You're using my money. I don't want to pay taxes. You're using my money to pay somebody else to help launch a business. What's my benefit out of it? And the benefit is empty spaces get filled. People who are participating in the spaces themselves put their skin in the game in terms of a negotiated rent below what they're, whatever they're participating in. And yes, we're paying rent to launch the business, but presumably they're sticking around. I guess there's no commitment beyond 1 year. Though, right?
And they all have to take, like, all the business that opens up, they have to take mandatory courses and provide a business plan, which they provide to the property owner, right? So the property owner can look at it and say, well, that's not a very good.
Yeah, that's helping the people launching the business, not helping the BIA.
Well, it is, because we've got people that actually have thought it totally through. Right. And know what their plan is.
There's high level of success to
exactly,
stick,
right?
to stay. It's
versus,
not a seat of the pants decision to go, I'm going to open a candy store and hope that works.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
You could also,
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you could also include the sort of general contribution to helping other people launch businesses as being something that, it's community building. It's supporting each other.
Yeah, and we are, this is community building within the BIA as well, because we're working extensively with BACD, right? And so it's a partnership.
Well, and they're all lovely words, but the people who are sitting there counting their dollars or the nickels and their dimes are going to say, you're using my money. You're not helping me with that. You can reduce my levy and help me save my money to keep my business, as opposed to launch somebody else's, right? Somebody's going to portray this as their money being used to offset somebody else's rent.
But I'm sure someone else.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point from the membership, but they also have to think, would they rather be an open, the sole open business in downtown, or would they want somebody to come in there and help spruce it up? You know, if I'm a shopper and I go to a place in a downtown where there's only a few shops, would I go there? No, I go somewhere else where there's more options. So offering this up would open much more diversity in the types of businesses, and that would mean that would be more people, more reason to visit downtown, and that would ultimately would result to more businesses for them.
Yeah, and I like the idea of being selective about what businesses show up.
Yeah.
I comment about certain types of businesses that show up downtown, and it's like, well, we have no choice. They're paying rent. That's it. At least this we get choice.
Yeah.
Now, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
It was three or four that started, but really only 2 that finished, right?
Well, there was supposed to be 10
Mm-hmm.
the first night, then only 8 showed up. But yeah, and that's typical of this program. Actually, talking to the other BAs that have run programs like this, you start out really big and strong, and as they go through the process, some of the people realize that I don't have the resources. Their eyes are opened up about how much time and effort it's going to take.
Yeah.
So it's through the learning process of them getting the business plan
So
that they realize whether or not they can do it.
I guess if you go to 2, what I want to avoid is only 2 people show up, and then there really isn't a choice, right? Like it's pitched as a competition, and the best idea and the best contribution and criteria wins. But if it narrows down to just 2 people,
with then I think you're looking at probably option 2, because it's 2 different locations, right? So you would have one where it's sort of like storefront Main Street, and the other where it's in the new marketplace that's opening up.
Can actually we go back to go back to that in a minute, because I didn't realize that when you said you were going to put 10 in the program that you didn't get nearly as many. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, because that's the nature of entrepreneurship.
So we got lots of applications and we narrowed it down to 10, but when the courses started, that's when it started to dwindle.
Okay, so to sort of address Ivano's point, being concerned about, okay, we're only going to have 2 complete the program, because it seems to me whether you have 10, you invite 10 to go through the whole program, or whether you invite, say, 15 to go through the whole program, there's not going to be a lot of difference in the amount of effort that's required to deliver the program. But it will, and actually is probably a better service to folks that are thinking about starting businesses in Oshawa, to take more of them into the program. And that way, you have more to select from, because yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think we want the 2 winners by default. We want to have some kind of choice. But I don't know. What do you think? What's your I guess the real question I would have for you, Angela, or anybody else that was involved, how much would it be the same amount of effort if there were 8 people running through the program, or 15?
So I think if we're running, like, say, option 2, where you've got summer going towards not option 2, it's probably option 3. I'd say it would be 10 per. So one where it would be 10 people for the storefront, 10 people for the other. But you're right, especially if we were going to end up doing it virtual, which we might have to with COVID, right? There is no difference in running it for 10 people versus 20 or even 30. The events room in Core 21, we can socially distance probably for 20. If it's partial virtual or all virtual, then we can easily do 30. So I don't see that like it's a learning experience from last year, right? We did have only 2 at the very end. So I agree, we should have more to select from.
Right. The other thing is, going back to the previous conversation, when you're trying to justify why this is money well spent, actually bringing forward that kind of information, I think really strengthens the case that these are selected. The chances of success for these businesses that actually get through the program are so much higher, right? It really is a good program for selecting potentially strong businesses.
So one of the things that'll help this, I like the conversation. Thank you for indulging me on it, because we're going to have to defend it. Two points I'll make that we'll probably need the data on is the vacancy rate and the churn rate, to really solidify that point that you made. The vacancy rate is about populating, empty spaces. And if the vacancy rate is a little higher than what we want, then this is a good program to help deal with that and attracts the right business, and we're selective about it. The churn rate speaks to solid business plans. So again, the outcome of this program means that we got a real solid business plan, and we could reduce the churn rate. I mean, the churn rate being the businesses that cycle in and out, in and out, in and out, open and close, open and close, open and close. So that would be two things that we would say this program is really aimed at helping to deal with in the downtown core. Close the vacancy rate or shrink it, and reduce the churn rate with sustainable businesses. And it's our choice, not any idea counts. Make sense?
Angela, yeah. So Angela, what was years back? I know you, the BIA had a program that is called like a pop-up shop program.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that one's only for like a month. It's a very limited program, right?
No, our pop-up.
But is there?
So our pop-up program was designed very differently than most of them. Most of them are like 3 weeks to maybe 2 months. Ours were actually designed for 4 to 6 months with reduced rent. And then with the hopes of that they would sign a long-term lease. We had a number of them go through, and we have 2 businesses in the downtown that are still here that started out as the pop-ups. One has moved a couple of times, but she's still here. And another one is still in the same location where he started.
So that could be, so that could count to what Ivan was talking about. I think it's a good thing to justify the program by presenting the membership stockholders with the success rate. So we could also include that to our program, like if they wanted to get justification. So we could include that. We'll just say this is a different program, but the similarity, there's the success rate. We could add that up to when we present it to the membership.
Yeah.
If they, yeah. So this is the second year that this is running, so we don't have a lot of data as to how successful it is, but we could include the pop-up shop also.
So we don't have data for Oshawa, but we do have data from other other state cities. So, and one of our shops that recently closed, but they actually started as a winner of Win This Space in Coburg, and then they opened up, and they opened up another place. So it does show that they grow, right? And they're still open. I think it's after like 5 years in Coburg. So
yeah,
and we have other instances where I've heard that they've dropped out of the program right near the end because they were worried that the space that they wanted, if they didn't win, they wouldn't get it. So they wanted that space, and so they would drop out of the program near the end and sign the lease. So it just depends on how people are and stuff, right? So we can pull success stories from other BIAs.
Yeah, that's good. So the options that we have here, I'm leaning towards having 2, whether that be full rent or what was your other option? We have an option there.
Option 1 is, okay, so you don't really want option 1. So option 2 is we run 2 concurrent ones at the same time where they would be street level. Option 3 is one would be street level, one would be in the market, in the Royal Bank building. Option 5 is also another one you guys might want to consider. because you actually in this one have 3 winners. So
Mhm.
one would receive $1,000 a month, one would receive 500, and then the other one would receive $3,500 as the max, but it would go towards their first and last month's rent.
Mhm.
I have
Like
a
I'm leaning
question.
towards option. Go ahead.
Oh, you're going to leave us hanging. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards option blank. Okay, sorry, I have a question before we do that. So, or comment or whatever. So what percentage of the rent is the $1,000 a month? And then the other comment is, it almost seems like by offering, I mean, I know it makes sense, the second place, you want to give them a lesser price, but it's almost like it's harder. We're making it harder for the one that we have identified as not as strong because they have to pay more money. Now, I mean, maybe there's sense in that. Okay, now I have a third comment. The other thing is the difference between storefront and marketplace might actually be dictated by what the business is. Right. So depending on, I mean, just the example of the massage therapist, you can't put that in a marketplace, right? That sort of needs its own isolated, building kind of thing. But, if it's somebody selling jam or something like that, then that just lends itself well to a marketplace and maybe even better than their own storefront. So, so I don't know where that. Anyway, so what's the answer to the question about what percentage of the rent is the $1,000 a month?
Okay, so we don't care. Is a simple answer.
Okay.
We have just set an amount. So if they pick a place that the lease is $1,000, then it's $1,000. We just give
okay.
it that. If they pick a place that's $3,000, they know that they get $1,000 towards that. And there is a negotiation process, like with this, the one currently. I helped them negotiate so that they weren't paying necessarily the full amount right away. So it's a lot of working with the property owner and the new business with what's comfortable, right?
Maybe flip the question around.
Yeah.
We know what typical gross lease space is worth per square foot or whatever like that. Your point is well taken. Depends how many they need and our fixed amount. In this particular case, what would, like our $1,000, would that have typically been 100% or less?
Oh, way less.
Yeah, so I think that's the
That's
message.
probably 50%.
Yeah,
It's not even 50%.
Well, so that's another good data point to show out there to say, hey, look, somebody's painting this picture like we're paying somebody's rent for free. And, typically depending on size and circumstances, this could be anywhere from 25 to 50% of their rent. So everybody is in, everybody's chipping in, the owner, the winner, us, and the owner to some extent in terms of meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, so none of the spaces that we had on our website that were available would have been covered by the $1,000 a month.
Yeah, so I like these points because it's important because people are going to paint this picture like, oh, you're paying my rent for free, and of course I'm going to start a business. It's all free.
Yeah, no, and we're really
we have to communicate this. So whatever I think, pick what you want. I'm for you. I'm just testing this because when I present out the budget, somebody's going to attack all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is draft a presentation on each of these initiatives to talk about what the benefits are for all the stakeholders, not just the downtown BIA members, but all the stakeholders. Stakeholders being property owners, other members, the city, the downtown residents. Every one of these presentations has to have what's in it for me.
So, we're very clear in the program that it's $1,000 towards the lease. And we're very clear because I know in other cities, they've actually said, well, we're paying your lease. And then they find out that no, it's X amount of dollars towards. So we're very upfront about that. And we sort of, drill it into people so that they're not expecting that we're going to pay their full lease. At least that's specific for the participants. Right?
So this amount, is this so far standard to the other BIAs? What other BIAs are doing? Do they set an amount, or do they typically cover the entire lease, or what's the typical program the other BIAs have?
There is no typical program. It's all specific per.
So it's
BIA.
up to them.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it depends on what the BIA's budget can accommodate, right? Ours
Mhm.
will be able to accommodate paying even one person's lease, right?
Mhm.
Not for some of the spaces, like for the one that we've got that just happened, there's no way we could accommodate that lease for a year.
We're going to get criticized no matter what we do. There's always going to be somebody out there who's not going to like it. We're going to hear from them. I think you have a strong case, so I think you're good to go. We just got to be cognizant that the naysayers are going to come out of the woodwork and punch holes through this. I think you're good. I think you've covered all the points. So
yeah,
I would support the program. I want to be ready for when those challenges come.
Okay, so now, Jeanette, are you going to say which option you prefer?
I was thinking option 2, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say either 2 or 3. So I think we should have 2 winners. And should they both have, maybe I'm more for 2 as well, because like I said, that I think by having a second place that gets less, we're sort of making it even harder for them to succeed.
Yeah, I think option 2 is good.
So, and we can always modify this. So if we do get someone that's going into the market, then they would get the less. But for budgeting purposes, then at least we have like the one amount, right? I think it's just that way it gives us more choices, I guess.
Yeah, option 2 and 3 are good options. It's just that if we didn't get enough applications last year, and we had option 3, what's going to happen if we don't have enough applications for that?
Yeah,
we can't. If we end up with a default, there's only 3 of you left, so all you guys win. We don't want to be in that situation. We want it to be, someone who really is interested in doing that.
I think it's critical on your criteria, because let's say you only have two contestants, but none of which meet your criteria. I don't think you award the program. I think it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, I think your criteria is going to be essential, and whatever numbers show up is whatever numbers show up.
Okay, so I'm hearing option 2 is the preference.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, sorry, I have to find my little notes. The other thing that we need to add in the budget is the garbage totes. So currently what happens if a restaurant opens up, the city will provide them however many garbage totes that they want. And it's a cost share between the BIA and the city. And they can get up to 5 garbage totes. If they need garbage totes beyond that, if one gets stolen or something, they have to pay for the garbage tote themselves. So it is cost share, but we've had 2 new catering companies open up during COVID. So I'm proposing a budget of $1,000, just so that we have money set aside for any new businesses that come in that need any garbage totes.
How much are these garbage totes?
I'm not 100% sure at the moment. I think they're about, our cost would be like at most $60 each. I think it's probably around $55. So that gives us a few that we can get throughout the year.
What happens, this is a bit tangential, but what happens to unspent reserves from the BIA budget? They roll forward or something else?
Yeah, we generally carry it. In the past, we've carried it forward. we really made a mistake. We're not really allowed to have a reserve. We might be lucky sometimes and end up with a few bucks left, and carrying it over is not a problem. Our projection this year is about 30K as surplus, but we have one risk item that we're trying to close out that could be up to 30K. So ideally what we're supposed to do is try to balance it right on the nose, but a few bucks here, a few bucks there is not a problem. We had some major carryover in the past, which we shouldn't have had.
Okay.
We're technically not allowed to have a reserve.
But sometimes BIAs have a reserve because they're saving up to do things like purchase street lighting or something, right?
In fact, in
and
the,
that's what we've done
in the
in the
governance
past.
rules, you cannot initiate programs past your mandate.
Yeah.
It's like city council. They can't commit to a budget that is beyond the mandate of their election period.
Yeah.
So it's one of those interesting things. I think I don't think anyone watches the rules dramatically, but I think we had to be careful. We didn't realize it, but we had some major carryover from previous years that were probably not a good thing to do.
Yeah.
From a personal wealth perspective, sure, everyone keeps for a rainy day, but that's not what the BIA is intended for. Essentially, the theory is you're not allowed to collect people's taxes and conserve the dollars.
Sit on them. Right.
Okay, so the last thing that I have under economic development is the booklet. So last year we had budgeted 10,000, and I'm not sure what the booklet is going to look like, whether it's a redo of Let's Eat or if it's more extensive. But I do know that Glenn wanted us to put some money aside towards having another BI initiative with the booklet.
Okay, and the costs are primarily for the print run, right?
So it's the graphic artist, the photographer, and yes, the print.
Okay.
So
and
what the one that we currently have, the one that we printed before,
Yes.
those ones are already out. Is that only for this year?
So the last time we printed Let's Eat was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And Let's Shop, we also printed about 2 years ago. So this year we didn't print anything. And last year we didn't print anything.
We were going to combine
Yeah.
one this year. Was it like a business directory, or was it Let's
It was
Eat
supposed to be
tourism and services? Right?
It was supposed to be a tourism guide. And that's why I said I don't know what this one's going to look like. I do know that, we received quotes and then COVID happened. And so nothing happened with that. I do know that.
I thought that for that combined booklet, I thought we had signed an agreement with what's that publication?
Metro.
Metro. Did
No.
we not?
No, we did not sign that because there was some discrepancies in what we wanted and what they wanted.
Okay, so we're not under we don't have we're
No.
not under any obligation to we
No.
have no obligations to fulfill whatsoever. Okay.
No, and I do know that from the RFP process, the person that was selected second was approached, and that didn't go anywhere either because, as I said, COVID happened.
Okay. All right. So I think we should.
But it would have to be again opened up as a
Mhm.
RFP process again.
So I think the question
Okay.
facing us as a committee would be, what do we want to do with, we should do a publication to focus in on certain sectors of our membership. We did one on eateries. We were going to do one on tourism. We kind of backed out of that one. I'm almost thinking this is like an annual thing and we rotate it. Like we could focus on food groups one year, tourism another year, and services another year to sort of focus on a business
Yeah,
directory without publishing a list. Like publishing a yellow pages list of business directories is not helpful. You go to our website to do that. This is about focusing in on a sector of our members and highlighting the business to attract to attract people. The problem is if you cycle it once every 3 years, things become stale pretty quick.
Yeah, and that was the actual plan initially, was that 1 year we do the Let's Eat, then we do the Let's Shop, and then it was a services one.
Because the example is the Let's Eat one is, I always think about a Martin with two toes down the street. It's now Matilda's, right?
Yeah.
In 1 year, it flipped from an Italian cafe to a vegan diner, and it's like, okay, that's hurtful to our publication, because when they do radical changes like that, you can't rely on it.
We even find that by the time it comes out, there's 1 or 2 places that have either opened up or gone. So it's always out of date. Okay, so I'm just suggesting that we put like $10,000 aside in the budget for it, and then we can have a more fulsome discussion at a later point as to what we want this to look like. Is everyone in agreement?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, sort of the future of this sort of publication, right? I mean, they're beautiful, glossy brochures, but is that really the way, that things are going to be distributed in the future, or is it going to be more online? That's why I was asking about the budget and how much is for printing versus, because you could put the same thing up virtually, and you still need the budget for the graphic designer and that kind of thing. Actually makes it more dynamic if it's virtual. But
yeah, I like your comment, because it's a different catchment. You're flipping, you're like me, you're dated. You like the paper glossy side. I tend to like that a little better than the online push. But who is the market we're trying to look at? So if you flip the dynamic over as a stakeholder view as to what would they prefer, a paper copy or a electronic copy, I don't know. It's an interesting question, because that would dictate what.
So here's my take on it. I think paper copy has an appeal to it, and it reaches a demographic that don't necessarily go online, right? So what we can do is we can add a like a barcode into the publication, where people can just scan that barcode and it automatically takes them to the website where an updated website where we have whether the changes of a certain let's say if that particular spot has changed already, then we can do that. But the magazine has a certain appeal to it. It also reaches a certain demographic that don't necessarily go online or think, oh, what's up there. And it also, if you see it on a hotel, for example, it's easier to invite them to come to the website if they have that.
Actually, you raise a good point, Jeanette. I mean, the digital Main Street is supposed to put a lot more emphasis on digital marketing for these businesses. Maybe whatever we launch, to your point, if we do it in paper format, the link over somehow to the digital Main Street investment should maybe pay off for people to say, well, we're combining these two initiatives to see if that works. The question I have is what do we want to do? And we don't have to decide here in terms of what's going to be our focus. Is it going to be a sector or a business directory in general?
I think that it's worked really well with having different sectors, because it lets people know what's here. But to Rana's point, like
what's the cost difference if we put like a directory, like if we combine them, it doesn't have to compromise. Like we can still, if we do a directory, we can still print it and design it in a way that it looks like it's separated by sectors. We can still have these nice glossy prints and pretty pictures. But what's the cost difference?
I think it's just going to be determined by the size.
Volume.
Yeah, volume is going to make the big difference.
Number of pages, number of pictures.
Because I'm just thinking, if we do a directory and just separate that directory by sectors, we can and then connect that to an online platform that people can, like if you put a barcode, and that will connect it to the online platform, then I feel like it's more bang for your buck if we print a directory rather than specific sectors per year.
But if you look at what you said about the hotels, if I'm in a hotel, do I really care where the lawyers are or the insurance agents are? I'm
No,
more
it's-
interested,
Hopefully not.
you know, where to
arts,
go for the
culture,
nightlife
our
and
arts,
stuff.
culture, and entertainment, right?
Yeah.
So it's events, it's food, it's
The nightlife.
Shopping.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, is that what we call tourism? So that's the catchment. And the other thing is, again, we don't have to decide here, but it's going to affect the budget. So to your point, how big this piece of document is going to be a driver for the numbers, for the dollars, as well as how many we're going to distribute.
And how
So
they're distributed.
the approach we took last year when we were planning this is we did 100,000 or 130,000. She was going to distribute them to all the northern area of Oshawa
So,
to bring them downtown, right?
so I do know that we've done that in the past, and we've done that through select postal codes, right? And I know that Glenn and Sue have talked extensively with Ashley Gilbert, who was the people that were producing it, and then they would do the mail out as well. And they determined which postal codes would be the most effective. And they did do that. The other thing too is that, you know, it's a good thing to sort of hit like the seniors' homes. There are a number of phone calls that we would receive asking for them to mail, for us to mail it to these people.
So,
because they want to see what's in their downtown still.
so those are the two drivers: the number of units you're going to produce and how big the volume is in terms of the document you're producing.
Yeah.
That'll dictate the number. What was our budget this year for 130,000 units and doubling up pictures,
Well,
tourism, and
the budget was 10,000, but the RFP was written so that it was basically seed money for the company that was going to do it. In the past, I think we've done it within like the 10,000.
how many units did you get? Like, I guess that's
I honestly don't know.
100,000 units or
No,
less?
definitely not. But
30,000.
yeah, probably about 30 or 40,000.
And then
How-
like the Let's Eat one was maybe a dozen, 20 pages at most.
Yeah,
right?
and I know that Glenn would actually hand deliver to all the restaurants. Or sorry, not the restaurant. Well, he did. The ones that were featured, but he would, all the hotels in Durham region, he would take cases to. So,
My concern is because I know this number, this has been the number that the BIA has been working with for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
But my concern is that is this sufficient for the one that we're doing right now? Because we're not just doing the usual brochure that the BIA has printed before.
so I would say no, but it's a start. I know in the past, we've had some assistance from the city on doing some of this. We could always ask as well. And we can look to see if there's grants. I don't think there are grants for this. But, you know, we can always look to see if there are grants that would cover any of these projects.
Okay.
So maybe what we should do is let's park 10,000 towards this, and then put another 10,000 in revenue earmarked toward this. So the program is $20,000, and that requires us to raise that money either from the city as either in kind, so graphic, all the stuff that would drive the cost, and or printing production costs, or we're going to raise it through a grant or contributions from featured businesses. Did they pay for anything last time?
They gave us a check.
Yeah. So if we do it that way, if it goes ahead, then we got to go get the other half of the money. If the other half doesn't show up, then we don't have to, we can cancel the program and say there wasn't enough interest or sponsorship in it. And that at least gives you 20,000 to basically play with.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, the businesses that are featured pay. So we can actually make up some of the revenue through that as well.
I don't know how many, like that's the problem is so you got a bigger budget, but I don't know how many units and how many pages, you know, restaurants I get, tourism places, I'm not sure, like the Regent Theater or the Music Hall or the new one that's opening up or Tribute, Like they're doing their own advertisement, right? So the issue for them, if they're going to contribute, is how big a catchment do you get?
Yeah.
Because they advertise on radios for concerts and things, and you're not going to, you're not going to do any better than that. They'd rather direct their money towards that than us.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough to raise that money unless the city or the region like invest Durham and or invest Oshawa.
Yeah.
Come up with something.
But it's only the ones that are highlighted that pay, right? So if you have your picture on that page, then you've paid to have that there.
Yeah, but some of these people, like a lot of the art side of things, they have events. So they have a concert. Yeah. And so the promoter of the concert does the promotion, not the center, right? So it's like, the issue is the center, the Tribute Center, for example, would not advertise, I don't think, in the tourism guide because they would go, well, what am I going to get? The gens will advertise their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm thinking, I don't know about that tourism guide. Hotels would.
Hotels, but we also have the gallery, we have the art museum. So we do have a number of things. But like we can always decide this at another time, right?
But if I was the gallery, I would go, okay, I'll put it there if you're telling me you're going to distribute this to the 170,000 residents in Oshawa.
Yeah.
But if you're only going to put 10,000 out there, it's not.
Yeah, but it also goes digital.
Well, yeah, right? but they make their own brochure that they'll put in the hotel. Like I get Glenn's point of restaurants is a little different. None of them make the brochures. They might do a menu and toss the menu in the thing. But so that one's a little interesting for the hotel drop off. But I know for the arts and culture, they all have their own brochures and drop them off at the hotel. So it's kind of duplication. That's my point. Depending what you pick and who you want to go after. Yeah, exactly. It depends how much money you need, and then it depends who's going to contribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we ready to move on to beautification?
Any questions? I think we are.
Okay.
So let's move on to our, where are we now?
What I've got.
Discover space. Number 7. Beautification update.
Yes.
Christmas lights.
Okay, so in terms of the budget, we have to put aside 50,000 to cover
for the Christmas lights.
Yep, for the rest of those lights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Have we already spoken with the I know last time we met, we thought we talked about talking to
getting some of them now.
The manufacturer.
Yeah, I talked to them getting it now, and it would still cost us what was it, 25,000 right now. So we're in considering what we have for that's marked as a surplus but is needed for a risk, it's not worth putting ourselves in debt for. Mm-hmm. Better just to hold it for the year.
Yeah.
Till the next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so these Christmas lights, we're paying for them, yes, but we won't be having them until next year, 2021.
That's right. So they've been half paid for. The other half is coming out for next year. Okay. And that's when we will receive the product.
All right.
In 2021.
Okay.
Okay. So.
And we and in total we're gonna need 50,000 to settle all that debt.
You know what? After today, after what's happened yesterday, I'm gonna say we should bump that up to 55. Just because.
What happened yesterday?
Well, we got the igloos, and so there was the shipping that wasn't included in that cost, and neither were the customs charges included in that. So if we put 55, that should cover all of that.
Okay. I think there's nothing we can do about that part. No. So window coverings, these are the new ones that we can talk about. Things that we can implement this year is probably we're most likely just left with the winter greeneries and putting up the wreaths.
Yes,
right?
That's, well, so, I don't even know about the winter greenery. The wreaths for sure. the winter planters for this year,
Mhm.
I don't think that's in the budget.
Okay.
But right now we should be really.
All right. So we're basically,
Go ahead.
sorry. So right now, the only project that we have left that we can cover for beautification is really the budget that we need to pay for putting up the Christmas wreaths, right?
Yes.
Winter greeneries,
In the banners.
not gonna happen.
I don't know.
And the banners.
I don't have the budget in front of me, so I'd have to look at it, but I don't believe that we do have that in the budget. I believe we just have for the banners the winter banners to be installed and the Christmas wreaths.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to set aside our budget for the Christmas lights for next year. The Christmas lights going to happen next year.
Yeah.
And we're budgeting 55 for that. Window coverings, have you asked around how much roughly that's going to cost?
So I actually went up to was it Harmony and Taunton? There's a TELUS store up on there, and noticed that there was some painting on a window.
Yes, I saw that one.
So I actually asked
Mhm.
for a quote from the artist, and he said it'd be about 2,000 per. So kind of out on that one. The window coverings, the quote I got was $9 per square foot. So I'm sure.
And how?
Sorry, go ahead.
$9 per square foot. What's the average square foot windows that we have?
I don't know. So
roughly.
And it would depend if we're going to do half a window, full window. So we could do some options. And you know, that was in production and install.
So just
Okay, so that already includes everything. Design, production, and install?
No, not design. But that would, I'm not
Okay.
expecting that design would be much, I guess it depends, right? Depends on what people want.
Mm-hmm.
just
But in terms of window coverings, the involvement of the property owners, of course, we're gonna need their permission to do that,
Yep.
right? Sorry, is
Yep.
somebody saying something?
No, I was just doing a rough calculation, and I think maybe a 10 by 10 window is not an unreasonable, sort of starfront size, which means we're looking at $1,000 for the window covering, $1,000 per window for window covering, which is, I guess, half of what the $2,000 to paint it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would set a budget up. I like your thinking.
Okay.
I would set a budget up to go, we make a contribution, the building owner makes a contribution, the city makes a contribution. So whatever you decide how many you want to do, divide it by 3 and put the other number in revenue on the revenue line, because there's a benefit to the building owner. Like if it's coming soon, like Alexis did a good job with that boarding or hoarding she put up, and we want to encourage that. And so she did it on her own, but essentially we could do something to promote that. So again, the pushback will be, well, why are you doing something the building owner should do? Well, the building owner doesn't have to do it, but they're putting some skin in the game. So is the city around beautifying downtown, and so are we. So figure out how many places you want to do, and then divide it by 3. Put the other 2/3 in the revenue line, and only do this program if somebody who's willing to do it. Or half, like you pick a number. Maybe you go half and half. The city puts in 25%, the owner puts in 25%, and we put in 50%.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I think that's a good idea. So I think we have to identify.
At $1,000, you tell me as a business owner, would you not put $250 or $300 towards cleaning up your front space while you regut the inside and renovate? if the city puts in $300 and
Yeah.
we put in $300, right? Like, I think that's a nice win-win. A building owner who isn't going to want to put in that kind of money is not going to put anything into it. He's just going to leave it as not even brown paper bag, right? He's just going to leave it as wrecked space. And so then you got to rely on the city to encourage people to do this, either through a bylaw or something around, you know, any open spaces that are under construction should not be visible to the public.
Right.
So I would
So I
say,
think we'll have to identify how many.
So why don't we just set a number for now, and then we can work out the details later. Right? So if we want to set how much the
Okay.
BI is willing to put into it, then we can sort of figure out what we want to do at a later point. Does that sound fair?
Do you have some kind of
That
estimate
sounds
as
fair.
to how many of these we might want to do? Like, would 10? I don't know. I can't visualize. How much of a difference would 10 make?
so at your estimate, it'd be,
You mean 10
cost would be
storefronts?
$10,000 for 10 windows. And then we would put in a budget $3,300 and put in $6,700 in revenue and ask the city for $3,300 and then have to convince those 10 businesses they got to pony up, you know, $330 for each location.
So I'd say if we put a budget of like 3,500, then it gives us something to start with, and then we can figure out the details.
That gives you 10 locations, 10 by 10,
Yeah.
right? I don't know how many empty spaces there are. I'm not sure how many would qualify for something like this. I can think of 10 very easily.
Sorry, guys, I'm late to the game. I was on another call. So what are you looking at? Just bring me up to speed. You're looking at the boarding for
Coverings.
renovations or for storefront windows?
Storefront windows.
We're doing for storefront windows.
Okay. So, you know, we did that project 2 years ago. And I hate to saying it didn't work, because I think sometimes you just got to go around it again, open a different door when you hit your head in the same door. But just maybe caution on the issue that we ran into is that we set aside a budget, the city, and I actually, we were able to get a few up, Level Drugs being one, the Gift House, and the Warden building on the corner, the arts, the one in Salina and King. We did a few, but where we ran into a really big issue is that we actually did a pretty cool, we got vintage pictures. We did pictures of what could it be. So for example, you know, one was like showing a florist shop, one was showing a butcher shop. We just did some great, you know, visual to give people an idea of, you know, you could have this space and, you know, this is what you could do with it. The issue that we did run into, there was two prominent issues. One was there's a lot of absentee landlords and they don't care. And we had a real issue with that. And it was no cost to them. It was a couple, and they didn't want us going in. They were, you know, they actually were against it. And we were saying it doesn't cost you anything. And then it was pretty expensive to do because we did some great visual, and I went actually and put them up with a helper, as I'm short, and we put up the posters inside the windows. And then sometimes they came in and they ripped them down, which, you know, one was like $800 and ripped down. So I think it's worth going back at it because they really did look good. I don't know if some of you, like Angela, you'd remember when some of them were up, and they looked fantastic.
Yeah, I think I recall too, now that you mention it, yeah, that they were very nice.
Yeah, we went to Astley Gilbert and actually we've got an architect on staff in communications, and he's phenomenal. So we worked together and picked out some great pictures, paid for them, went to Astley Gilbert, had them print. We measured the windows. They were pretty slick. It was done professionally. It was unbelievable how difficult, like for example, Salina and King, Ara, we put it up in his building when he bought the one, the brush strokes, and his contractors came in and ripped them all down. I was livid. And for him, it was over $800 that we just put in. and they were up for about a month and then ripped down. So I caution you, and it's funny because you think, gee, we're going to go, and so you may have an issue with people even wanting to put in 25%. We were giving them for free, and we had a hard time.
These are these are mostly for absentee landlords who own the property that are not here.
It was a mix, actually.
Or are these for locals as well?
Yeah, it was a mix. It was absentee and landlords who are actively in Oshawa.
Mm-hmm. Was it? Do you know what, like a percentage, like out of 10, how many of them are difficult?
Probably 90%.
Wow.
I don't know, Jeanette. It was case by case basis. Yeah, I think it's a great project. It really, I've seen it in other cities, and it looks fantastic. It, you know,
I think if we could get 2 or 3, I think I'd call that a success. If we could cover 2 or 3 windows and make it look nicer, I think that's a great contribution to the overall look.
Yeah.
As opposed to 0.
Yeah, and if we're actually asking them to contribute, perhaps that will sort of sort through the ones that, you know, are disagreeable about it, and at least they'll stay if they've paid for them partially.
Is there like a bylaw that requires the storefronts to cover their windows? Or is that just for when it's during construction?
I don't believe there's a bylaw in place for that. The only reason that the boarding for construction, for example, on Simcoe and King, is when it is interfering with the sidewalk.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a great insight. We should go ahead and proceed with the project, knowing that there will be people out there who's not going to participate. But like I said, I think if we could cover 2 or 3, I think that's still a good eye candy.
Okay, so it comes back to what sort of amount do we want to put down for a budget?
So let's go with the 3,500. That gives us 10 if the city and the property owners participate, right?
Okay.
Just so you know, and here I am coming on the call and being the bearer of bad news, but the city's in the middle right now starting the budget process. I'd have to talk to Carl, and I know as you can well imagine, it's going to be a tough year with some big cutbacks. So I don't know what the city would be willing to do. What I do know, though, is what's interesting is that I was able to set aside a portion for the window coverings, and there was still a little bit left in the pot. I don't know how much left now. I think it was a $3,000 we'd put aside. Don't quote me on it, but I think there's only maybe 600 I've been excuse me, trying to use up with Astley Gilbert. So there's a little bit left in there that would be good to use up. So maybe it's $500-600, I don't know. And that was earmarked for the BIA. I was actually throwing it out to our team if there was any more publications, so it might have been used up because I didn't want it sitting there. But I'll look into that. And then once you come out with what you need, just send it off in an email, and so Kyle and I can take a look at it. But I know there's a little bit left there.
Thanks, Sue.
Oh, you're welcome. And I mean, that would
Well, if there's not enough money, would there be even just a possibility, maybe in kind, like you work with people in the city, drawing up or designing that and printing it and things like that?
Oh, I think, yeah,
not enough money.
I think, yeah, I think well, like, we wouldn't have a problem. That's a good point, Jeanette. I mean, I worked with the one architect, and we helped design it and pick it out. And so, yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be an issue. I think the hard costs are the big issue, which is your printing but put it together and then send it through.
Okay, sounds good. So we're good with window coverings for now, Angela?
Yep.
We set aside 3,500 and then we work out the details, send it to the city and iron things out from there.
Yep. So I'm assuming we're going to move on.
And
Winter greenery.
we're gonna move on to number 3, winter greenery. So for this year,
Well,
we're not
looking
gonna have
for
any winter greenery.
2021, right? So we're looking at
Yeah.
here for
So,
2021.
2021, how much do we set aside for this, for last year?
I believe I'm not 100% sure. So as a quick note, I put for the install and removal for 2021 for the wreaths would be 5,000. For the winter planters, sorry,
Okay.
it was like 25,000.
For the winter planters.
Yeah.
So I think we should set aside, I know for the winter planters, our supplier last year said that they're not gonna do it again for that price.
Yeah. Well, then they have
So
changed their price in 5 years.
Sorry?
If in 5 years, they'd never changed their price. So I'm not surprised
Yeah.
that they won't do it again.
Yeah. So I think we should increase that. We're at 25, right?
Yeah.
How many planters are there?
I think we did, I want to say 200. It may not have been 200. I know we did, it was usually around 3,200 for 16 of the big ones. And then we just did the smaller ones beyond that. So it could have been like 100.
Camp, 30.
I think if we set aside 30,000, that would cover the increase.
I'm thinking we should do 35
Okay.
if we're doing 150.
Yeah, I'm not certain, right? I don't have the invoice in front of me from what it was.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we'll put 35.
If you ask me, I think 35 is not enough, but let's go with 35.
Okay, and the wreaths for the install, do you think 5 for the install and removal is good?
Let's budget for an increase of 1,000. Let's do 6.
Okay. Then the other note that I have, which is not on here, was entrance planters. I know that Ivano had sent you that picture with the on Queen Street. So
right.
we were sort of playing with that idea in the office, and we could have like, and this is where hopefully we could get in kind from the city, because you know, with the changes on King Street, now they're going to have some of those big cement planters. So ideally, it would be great to have 2 or 3, and then we could get metal work and have the BIA's logo, or maybe, and then wrap the planters. And the wrapping on the planters could have the city's logo as well. And we could do things like, if we have 3, one could say Discover, and then the, and then Vibe, or something like that. We could figure out what we would like to have it say.
I was thinking about that planter wrapping, and I'm thinking if it's better to have it painted instead of wrapped. And in terms of costing,
so. I think it's actually better to have it wrapped, because the wrap will come off without damaging the planter. But if it's painted, then trying to get rid of the paint is probably going to damage the planters. And I don't really, I don't know how much those planters cost, but I don't want to be responsible for having to replace or do whatever, because they're all stone, right? There's little stones on it. I think that might be an issue where we have tested in the past with a wrap on it, and it never damaged the stonework.
And the city has no plan of replacing those ugly planters today.
I think they are actually on King Street where the construction is going. The planters that would have been there won't be.
Mhm.
They have other things that are going in now to go along with their streetscape. So ideally, if we could get those, and then, you know, that saves us from having to purchase the planters. And those things are heavy. You actually need a freaking crane to move it. I've watched them. And so if
Yeah.
we had a couple, and it
Mhm.
would work great as entrance, right? As signage, right? So
Yeah.
ideally,
Yeah.
if we could
So
get,
in terms of wrap,
no, go ahead.
like in terms of wrapping the planters that we have right now, have you inquired as to the cost of that as well?
I haven't. I'd have to go take dimensions, but I'm assuming it wouldn't cost a lot. And you know, we could even try to just do one. Like I would put like $4,000 or $5,000 aside and hope to do one, possibly two. Like if we don't have to pay for the planters, that's going to reduce the cost enormously, right? Getting the ironwork done.
I think if we're going to do it, we have to do it in a way that it would create a considerable impact. So if we're going to do one or two, it wouldn't make sense. If we do corners, 4 corners,
Well, I think the idea for
I
that
think that would make
entrance, right? So I would start with Simcoe going north, so down by Memorial Park. Maybe not on Memorial Park, maybe the other side of the street, if we could get the property owner to allow that. But, you know, I would, or on Bond Street, or Center, or King, right? So it's literally just marking the entrance of the downtown.
I don't know. I feel like if you put that in the entrance of the downtown, it's like an odd. If it's just that, if you're going to put it in an entrance, might as well put it in all entrances.
Yeah, so we would have all 4, but we could work up to it each year, right? Like find out this year exactly how much it costs by doing one, and then budget accordingly for the following year to do the other 3. Or if it's within our budget, if we say 5,000, and if it's within the budget to be able to do 2, then we do 2.
Okay, let's set aside 5,000 for it and inquire
Yep.
how much it will cost. And also, I was driving down, what street was that? The back of the Tribute Center?
Bruce Street.
Bruce Street, yep. We don't have any, I know we don't have any banners there, but what would it cost to put banners there?
We need poles that have banner arms on them. Which
Okay, so
we
just
don't have.
the banner arms.
Well, and they're not our poles, they're not city poles. Those are PUC poles, so we have to get special permission to even actually do that.
Yeah, and I think Ivano can help us maybe inquire
We'd have to put in a
about
formal,
the possibility.
he's had to duck out for another meeting, so, but yeah, we can
Mhm.
put in a formal request, but I'm not sure how much those arms are gonna cost. And then there's the cost.
Okay. So yeah, so I feel like we should do something there in that area,
Well, we have. For the
as
pole
well
wrapping
as on
part.
the yeah. Yeah, I know that there are pole wrappings there, but when you're driving on Simcoe Street, you can really see the difference of having that uniform banners.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to have something in that area as well. So let's inquire as to how many poles are there and how much it will cost to put banners on there as well.
So do you want all of Bruce from Simcoe to Charles? Both sides of the street, one side of the street? Just in our boundary?
Just one side of this, just sitting on our boundary.
Okay.
Is that where the extended boundary is though? That's
Yeah.
where the extended boundary is, right?
Yeah, so it might miss 1 or 2 poles because it goes to Court Street, and then it goes up to Charles. So I think there might be 1 or 2 poles that might be missed along there. Okay, so I'll get how many poles? I'll ask Oshawa Power, and Source and Price Arms. Okay, so I'm just thinking in my head, because we just did a walk through this
And
to check those the pole wraps. So I think I got 2, 4,
mhm,
6, 8, 10. I know I have at least 10 pole wraps along there. So
mhm.
at most we would have 20 poles.
Okay, I think that's not bad. Let's
But
figure out how much that's gonna cost us.
yeah, so we need also the cost of the banners as well.
Yeah. So let's figure out how much that's gonna cost us, and then iron the kinks out. For the Christmas lights, for next year, power sources for the tree. I think this is where Mitchell comes in.
And Mitchell is gone. He had to leave.
Oh,
And no, that wouldn't be Mitchell.
okay.
So
So
it might be. Okay, so power source for trees.
sorry. Power source for the trees on the along the road,
Along the street.
Simcoe, King, along the streets. Yeah. Because I know we broached this topic last year with, I think it was Mitchell, and he mentioned that if we're going to do something right now, we have to do it while they're doing the streetscape
Yeah, and I
construction.
mentioned something to Sue about it, but I don't know if that's within their budget of what they're doing. But I don't see, well, I didn't see Sue there, so I'm not sure. She's on mute, so I'm not sure if she's, there she is. So Sue, we were talking about the construction on King.
Yeah, I was listening. I was just typing away, so I don't want to make a noise. I was actually emailing Mitch, so it's pretty funny. I was asking about the planters. No, unfortunately, I guess what happened in the budget that got passed by council for all of the phases, like we're on phase 2 right now, is, as everybody knows, or the widening and the planters and trees and everything like that. But they did not go under to the infrastructure. They have the locates, but they didn't go further than that with the budget.
Okay, so then there's no power sources at the base of trees.
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge, Angela. I'm quite sure, because that's been a large discussion with our teams, is because obviously when you're going to tear up a sidewalk, you want to do it right and do everything. But the most that we could get from the budget for council was only what's the
They didn't
word?
include that, yeah. Okay, so then our other option would be to see if we could use a power source from the streetlights. Seeing as how we remove the banner enhancers, we may be able to use those outlets.
Just use those ones, yeah.
I'll just reach out to Mitch. I was in the middle of sending him an email on just about the replacement of the ugly large planters that we all hate, because I know, excuse me, I know they're not purchasing any more of those dinosaurs. I call them the Flintstone planters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're ugly.
They are Flintstone planters. Yeah, that's very appropriate.
Brutal. So I know they're not purchasing any more of those things, but I don't know what they're replacing them with. I just know that as they do the streetscape, then, as you know, they're putting in the nice trees and things like that, and the new benches. I'll ask them about the planters. I'll also ask them about the power source for trees.
Wouldn't the power source be Tyler?
Yeah, it would be, but sometimes Mitch kind of, and you just sent an email to Tyler. Do you want to just, well, why don't you ask Tyler and then see where you go with that? And I'll keep on Mitch as far as the planters.
Yep, I'll work on Tyler for the poles.
Okay. All right. I think.
So were there any other ideas? Oh, I had one more. I'm sorry. Wall murals.
Start.
So in the events meeting yesterday, it was discussed that it would be great to have some place for, as a, when they come out, that the grads can go and have their pictures taken. So
Mhm.
I had spoken to Howie, who owns Court Street parking, but he also owns where Canadian Cabinetry is, as well as the two buildings directly behind the Tribute Center. And he has said in the past that he would be quite happy if we wanted to do some sort of mural there. So I didn't know if we wanted to do some sort of mural on the side of the building, if you're going east on Bruce, so not Canadian Cabinetry.
Which building?
So it's right behind the Tribute Center on Bruce.
It's
And-
not particularly, it doesn't stand out very much as a building, but probably with a mural. That's an awesome idea, Angela.
Yeah. So
I just put like everything together, right? It's right there, and you get Howie engaged, and yeah.
exactly. So, and it would be something
So
great for
which
graduates.
building is it?
So if you're on Bruce Street, right? If you're going east,
Yeah.
on the right-hand side, you've got the big parking lot. And then you have a building that's inset, that's Canadian Cabinetry. And then you've got the two little houses right at the front of like right along the street. So the side of that one house, he said that we could use that to put a mural on. And it would be great if we could do something where the graduates could stand in front to have their picture taken.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So for that, we'd have to set aside a budget, and I'm not sure, I'm gonna say like maybe 5,000. I'm not sure that it would cost that amount, but we could try to get some ideas together. It would take some consideration because we want to include Trent, Durham College, and Ontario Tech, because all three use the Tribute Center for their graduation, right? So we'd like something that's sort of inclusive, that everyone could be feel comfortable having their pictures taken underneath.
You know what, Angela? Do you think maybe you could get sponsorships from Ontario Tech, Trent, and Durham College for that?
I was actually thinking the same thing,
Yeah.
because if we could get sponsorship from them, we could facilitate it. I think they'd be okay with it.
Might be worth the ask. The other one too, and I think I like your idea because it's the proximity is perfect for coming out of Tribute. The other is just more an FYI because I think it's too far away. And but Simcoe and Bond on the RBC building, the Alexis is with the renovation they're doing on the market. She's also putting in a big thing where people can get their pictures taken. They're all kind of funky and stuff like that. But that's I think a different. Where you're going, I really like off of the Tribute. But I might be really worth talking to
Alexis as well.
Yeah, you could talk. Yeah, I mean, it might be worthwhile. She's a little further away, but that's where she's setting that up. So she might actually be even looking at sponsoring that, or just because that brings great traffic into her.
Right. Or if you want to take that even a little further, maybe there's several places, like maybe we can have a guide to where there are interesting, because there's lots of murals downtown. Yeah. And that way we sort of disperse people, I mean, not everybody will go, but it may be a way of sort of dispersing people around the downtown and having them go by restaurants as they go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what sort of dollar amount do we want to set aside for the murals? So I'm thinking if we put 2,000 or even like 1,500 and then try to get 1,000 from each of the other organizations. What do you guys think?
I think 2,000 is good.
And then I will approach the other organizations. So we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. The one thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Earlier, so I believe you know this, Jeanette, but the rest of the group doesn't. Earlier in the year, I wrote a grant. It's kind of a grant. You have to pay a certain amount back So we received a grant for 10,000. We have to pay 3 of it back. So essentially it's $7,000 grant, and it is towards the Christmas lights. And it was for this year, but with no events happening because the grant had to be sort of an add-on to an event. So we added the lights on at Memorial Park from Bright and Mary. We requested and they've approved that funding will be pushed to 2021. So we already have $10,000 towards the Christmas lights.
That's awesome.
And as
All
you
right.
be looking for other grants and stuff as well throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this, you know, those when we went to Ottawa and they have these big letters
Yeah,
in their park.
yeah.
Would you be able to scout pricing for those?
Lit or not lit?
Not lit. I'll get lit and not lit. Let's see the price difference.
Okay. And so what kind of lit, like what do you want it to say?
Oshawa.
Okay.
I'm thinking we could put something like that in the Memorial Park, the gate entrance.
Okay. I will get some prices on that.
Okay. I think we're done with that one. And now we move on to number 8, 2021 planning business. I think that's just what we did.
Sorry, it's a mix up. So number 9 should actually be new business.
New business. All right. Do we have any new business? I don't think we do.
Okay, then we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Just before you do sorry, just jumping in, if you don't mind, I sent out, I'm just getting a follow-up from Doug Aiken at Astley Gilbert. I think there might be, was going through the past updated statements on the credit because I've been trying to get it used up. I think it might be $1,200 in there. I could be wrong. So if so, that'll be perfect for some of the window coverings.
So
Perfect.
I just have a question with that, Sue. So that would have to be used at Astley Gilbert's?
Yeah, it's a credit. So you can use it for whatever you want. I've been trying to use it up. So for example, you remember Amanda was going to do the mail outs. She wanted those postcard mail outs on the downtowns. So I had circled her in with Doug Aiken to use it for that. But of course that fell apart. So you can use it actually. I don't care what you guys use it for. Just it has to be for printing. That's where it would work out well for, because they do.
So then if we did another booklet, like Let's Eat, then it can be used towards that.
Well, yeah, but Let's People still have its own budget. So what we'll do, like we're in the budget, we're starting the budget right now.
Yeah.
So don't forget, there'll still be money set aside for economic development that comes from from economic development. So that always goes to Let's Eat. So this is just a bit of a bonus, is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's left over. So you know.
Okay, we'll take this offline because I have some questions for you about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So once I get what that number is, Angela, then let's just chat and you figure out where you want to put it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. So we'll need, is there anything else? Comments, thoughts, violent reactions?
Motion to adjourn. My battery's running out.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Take care, everybody.
Hey.
All right, thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I think we're cool.
Okay.